It's Kevin Keatsman Uncanceled on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kansas City. Welcome to Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. I'm Kevin Keatsman with you for the next hour. The junior varsity team season has been canceled. The Israelis have apparently hit the building in Iran that was housing all the leaders that survived as they were getting ready to vote on who the next Ayatollah would be, and they're all dead. A massive meeting of the junior varsity. I'm sorry, I don't mean to make light. I'm sorry, I don't, of people losing their lives. These are not good people, and we're doing this for a reason, and I've got a very clear team that I'm rooting for here, and that's the United States of America. So let's go get them, boys and girls, and if we're going to do this, let's do it right. The JV has been eliminated. That's my favorite line yet. Not my line. I saw it on X. It's just fantastic. I don't know what remains now. What's next? The freshman squad? We go down to the junior high team, or what we're going to have. But apparently they were gathering today to take some sort of it was like the Catholics do when they're looking for the new pope, right? And they go in and they take these votes, but there was no smoke. Well, the smoke wasn't good. I can tell you that. They didn't come up with a new leader, but there was smoke everywhere on this deal. Okay? So that is done, and where they move on next, I don't know. We can talk about taking military installations out right and left and missiles and munitions. I was looking at some radar shots today that were just fascinating photographs. We've destroyed everything around the airfields, but not the runways. Like the runways, it used to be the first thing you destroyed was the runways because then the planes can't get off the ground. We're leaving the infrastructure there. Like, okay, we'll let you rebuild, but it's got to be under the right conditions. They're not blowing up the runways. I've never seen anything like it. They're like, well, we took the planes out and the hangars out, so we really don't care if the infrastructure is here. This is a whole different kind of conflict that we're seeing. We got a good show lined up for you today. We've got United States Air Force retired commander for the 139th Airlift Wing in St. Joseph, Missouri, Colonel John Cluck will join us at 10:30. I've known Colonel Cluck for many, many, many years, and we will talk about the largest air attack ever. I tried to get him on yesterday. He's flying some for Southwest now in his retirement, which for an Air Force guy, is that not kind of boring work? Like after you've flown the fighter jets and all the stuff, it's a little bit boring shuttling people around Oklahoma City or something. I mean, I don't think I'll ask him that, but he's just a great guy, and he knows all about this stuff as the retired commander of the Airlift Wing. So I can't wait to have a discussion with him today on how we collaborate and communicate for something like this in Iran, something that we've never seen before. You are either lucky or unlucky today that, on yesterday's show, I did not get to Pastor Adam Hamilton, and I'm not going to get to him today, I don't believe, because I might need a whole show. But I did spend a great deal of time on yesterday's podcast that I do and today's with personal experiences that I've had with the good pastor, who I think in many ways is a fine man, an excellent Christian, and has a big heart, and in other ways is one of the slimiest people I've ever seen in politics. I can't believe he's doing this. It's disingenuous, and it's deep, and it goes way back over 30 years with me and my family. I told the story on my podcast yesterday. It's called Kevin Keatsman Has Issues. If you want to check out my podcast, you can go to kkhasissues.com. And there's an update today with emails I received from my podcast listeners about Pastor Adam. And I got a bunch of emails, and not one was positive. He's a liberal. So we'll leave it at that. I'll spend some time. I'll share the story at some point with this audience, but today is not the day because we have so many things going on with the war in Iran. Great to have you with us. We hope you are safe and well, and we know a lot of these things are difficult choices. If I talk about Pastor Adam or politics, some of you love him, some of you don't. I'll share my feelings at some point, but I know who I'm voting for in Kansas. That's decided. It doesn't take much for me. I'm a Roger Marshall guy. And in this war, this is pretty easy for me. I'm for the United States over Iran. And I explained yesterday on the show that mine goes back as far as 1979. I think I'm a fair person. Everyone that I meet, I like when I meet them. I like everyone until they cross me. And then when I do, people just kind of become dead to me. It's not that I hate them. I don't wish bad things upon them. I just, don't want them in my life. I think most of us don't want a lot of negative influences or people that are affecting us in a negative way or don't like us in our lives. And I've always been that way. And I don't mean to keep tying it to Pastor Adam, but that's what happened. That church pushed us away 3 decades ago. And we went elsewhere, and it's fine. It happens. Things happen. This Iran thing has stuck with me my entire life, so this is easy for me. And I know that there are many people out there thinking Israel's the bad person. We've got, Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly out there just losing their minds over this stuff, in my opinion. But I grew up at a time where Iran was spitting in our face, taunting us. I know they've funded terrorism. They've killed thousands of Americans over the years, and this one's easy for me. And even if I didn't, even if this were Obama and it was something I didn't understand, and I was like, okay, I don't think I understand why we're doing this, whether we should be in this or what, I don't see the mission, I would stand with my president and my country. And I think a lot of people like us are like that. The other side certainly is not. It's been remarkable to watch Donald Trump allow his cabinet to speak their minds. Really remarkable. Marco Rubio did it yesterday. Mike Johnson did it yesterday. J.D. Vance did it. And then we have the Middle East Special Envoy, Steve Witkoff, who basically unloaded some amazing information, if you have not heard this yet, on why we needed to act now, that there was an imminent threat. Witkoff revealed that Iran had amassed enough highly enriched uranium for 11 nuclear bombs and could have upgraded some of its weapons grade within days. A realization, he said, underscored the urgency of Operation Epic Fury. Quote, they have roughly 10,000 kilograms of fissionable material. It's broken up into roughly 460 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium, another 1,000 kilograms of 20% enriched uranium, and the balance is at 3.67, Witkoff said Monday. They manufacture their own centrifuges to enrich this material, so there's almost no stopping them. They have an endless supply of it. Witkoff said 60% enriched uranium posed the most immediate threat, warning it could be brought to weapons grade, 90% enrichment in 1 week to 10 days at the long end, on the outside. The 20% could be brought to weapons grades inside 3 to 4 weeks. According to Witkoff, Iranian negotiators did not dispute the figures during talks and instead viewed their nuclear capability as their leverage with the Americans. In that first meeting, Witkoff said, both of the Iranian negotiators said to us directly with no shame that they control 460 kilograms of 60% and that they were aware that they could make 11 nuclear bombs. That was the beginning of their negotiating stance. They were proud of this. They were proud that they've evaded all sorts of, inspections and violations and rules and oversight protocols to get to a place where they could deliver 11 nuclear bombs. We discussed with them 10 years of no enrichment whatsoever and that we'd pay for their fuel. We'd keep buying fuel for them to keep them a wealthy country. It was flatly rejected. The refusal, he said, signaled to U.S. officials that Tehran no longer had any intention of dismantling any of its nuclear program, and the strike was ordered a day later. That's that, folks. Now, I just read you a lot of detail for people like you and I that didn't study this in college, and we're not physicists or nuclear scientists or whatever. And you heard all this. This is Steve Witkoff. He's the special envoy. He's the negotiator at the table. And the people running around criticizing that there was no imminent threat, you think Witkoff just makes these numbers up? I've never heard so much detail of what they knew about what Iran has and what Iran was saying at the negotiating table and bragging that they could make 11 nuclear bombs and thinking it was their leverage. Now, if you think that's some kind of concocted, drawn-up lie by the Trump administration, good for you, because I ain't got that in me. I could sit around all day with an empty Big Chief legal tab and not come up with something like that. All my number 2 pencils in the world, I can't come up with that. I don't know what all that is. But we knew it, and they admitted it. Not only did they want to admit it, they wanted to brag about it in the meetings. Bomb the living daylights out of them. That's easy. They're sitting across the table giving you the same twisted taunt that we got in 1979 when they took hostages, toying with the United States of America, thinking we have the capability here in another couple weeks to have 11 nukes. And that's our leverage, and you're scared of us now, and you're not going to do anything. Really, let's wait. It's been 47 years. This is not a forever war. This is the end of the forever war. 47 years we've been warring with Iran. Actually, they've been warring with us because most of our presidents and politicians have been too spineless to do anything about it until now. I don't know what the government's going to look like in Iran. I don't know how peaceful the people is going to be. And I don't know if this brings world peace or peace in the Middle East. I don't know what China's reaction will be. I don't know what Russia's reaction is going to be. I don't know a lot of these things. But what I know is, in very short order, in a few weeks, we don't have to worry about Iran funding terrorism and flying airplanes into New York City buildings. We don't have to worry about these giant terror plots being financed from Iran and the access to thousands of missiles that they can lob to all the countries very close by and our air bases that are stationed there. That threat's almost gone now, but I can't imagine what it's going to be in a week. They say the biggest fury is yet to come. We have taken out some, 1,500 targets already in 2+ days? Sensational work. It's an absolute tragedy that we've lost 6 American military personnel. It breaks my heart. It's terrible. These were people that were clearly stationed in the most dangerous place in the world. I believe Mike Johnson, when he stepped out of the meeting yesterday, the security meeting where they were briefed on all this, and he said, if we had waited for them to strike first, we would have had, quote, staggering losses of American life, unquote. And I think that's right. In the middle of the night one night, if Iran goes first and they lob 2,000 missiles in the air, we're not picking them all off. We're not. Striking first was the right call. I think history will show that. I don't think it's taken us long to figure that out. We're stopping so many of the things that they're flying up in the air, but we're not stopping all of them. Can you imagine if they'd gone first? Can you imagine what we've taken out to this point? If they just said go, all synchronized, and because it was going to be suicide for Iran no matter what. When they launched and did it, they knew it was the end of the Ayatollah. They knew it was coming to an end, but they've felt that from their own people. They've had revolution in their own country. They knew that their regime was slipping. And desperate terrorists do what? They just hit the red button and say, send them all. Everything we got, send it all. We're going to die anyway. And then they're martyrs, and the virgins await. You can't negotiate with these people. What we're doing now is the only thing that you can serve them, and that is justice for the murder and the mayhem and the destruction they have caused the United States of America. And I'm not talking about Israel, and I'm not talking about other countries. I'm talking about us. 913-408-7957. If you'd like to join us, this is Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio. So the Dems were going to complain no matter what. Trump said that yesterday. He was right. We talked about the same thing. Sharice Davids, Manuel Cleaver, anybody that's out there is like, oh, well, they shouldn't have a nuke, but Trump did the wrong thing. It's like if he hadn't done anything, they'd be complaining that there was no action. They are always just going to complain about Trump, so we ignore that. But there's a whole bunch of podcasters on the right now that are on Trump. Megyn Kelly leading the way along with Tucker Carlson. Megyn Kelly basically said of this, it's Mark Levin's war. Ben Shapiro, Lindsey Graham, Miriam Adelson, that's obvious. She said it's not our job to do this and that the American soldiers died for Israel or Iran. They did not die for the USA. Megyn Kelly has a chance of being canceled from that statement. That I don't listen to her. I get people all the time asking, no. And I used to love Tucker's TV show, and I don't listen to his podcast. Some of the stuff from the right with these podcasters that are out there are way too conspiratorial and whacked out for me. I'm just telling you. And she is in some kind of hot water. Dave Rubin, who's a podcaster, responded back, Megyn Kelly's transformation into heel is fully complete. Imagine thinking Trump doesn't make the decisions, and somehow he, JD, Rubio, Hegseth, etc., were tricked into this by podcasters and radio hosts. The Botox isn't supposed to go directly into your brain, lady. And from a user named Cat Turd, who everybody seems to know on the right that follows social media, always remember the first Trump derangement syndrome, never Trump loser, was Megyn Kelly. For her trying to get Trump at the first debate, which she failed, she was awarded tens of millions of dollars from the fake news media, which she gladly took. Her cringe show ultimately failed. They even had her dancing on the table to woke cringe BS. Once Trump won again, she suddenly was all in on Trump with her podcast, and now she's turning on him again. This flip-flopping, stone-cold loser will do anything for a buck. Dance, Megan, dance, you insufferable grifter. Dance, Megan, dance. Wow, that's a whole bunch of Trump people are upset with Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson, and I understand why. Because they're sort of in a weird way acting like Democrats. They were going to hate, no matter what Trump did, they were going to hate it. They all agree Iran is bad, but this is bad too. All right, let's go to the phone. Steve is in the Northland today on KCMO Talk Radio. Good morning, Steve. How are you?
Hey, Kevin. I love your show. Now, the first thing you started out with was this Adam, this pastor that have you attended his church, by the way?
I did. I've got a very long story to tell. Today isn't today.
Okay, good. I can't wait to hear it. But these liberal pastors, Christianity in a political context is conservatism. And if you look at all the principles and things that we're taught in the Bible, they are conservative. And the way you conduct your life and the way you treat others. And these pastors who are liberal make me want to puke. And it just absolutely, I have no place for them.
Okay.
But there's another point I wanted to make really quick. You mentioned, what's going on in the Middle East with regards to these Ayatollahs. This is a perfect example of what theocracy can do and how depraved theocracy is. And then what you described was really, them, if they can't win this war, they're just going to take out as many people as they can. Now, there's an equivalent strategy that's called the Samson option. And that's the other theocracy in the Middle East, Israel. So these people are not that sweet either. And us being allied with them is not that sweet. But I think it's legitimate to look at Islam as always seeking a theocratic rule. But it's also legitimate to look at Israel as also seeking a theocratic rule, always looking for political objectives, even in this country.
All right.
So go ahead. I love your show. Go ahead.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate the call. Thank you. I believe in the separation of church and state. I think we have it right in this country. I think the government's the government. I think your church is your church, and it's your business. And I don't like the crossover. And, we have Reverend Emmanuel Cleaver, who's in Congress, but he's not really a reverend anymore. I guess he is. He still gets the title, right? But he's decided that ultimately what you decide and what Adam Hamilton has decided is that his work for the Lord and our Savior, Jesus Christ, in his church is not as important as liberal policies in getting to D.C. and flipping a Senate seat in Kansas. That's the choice he's making when he runs. I'm bored with my church. He said it right there to Pete Mundo today. I'm a great salesman. Pete asked him about money. He's like, Pete, come on. I'm not worried about money. I've got so many people under my thumb at this church that will give me millions of dollars. I'm a great salesman. I got this. He's selling nothing at this point. He said nothing about an issue. He is a liberal Democrat pastor running as an independent, which makes him a fraud by definition. I cannot respect the politician. I can respect the man of the cloth. I cannot respect the politician. They don't line up. They're not congruent. I don't get it. I don't know why he can't just tell the truth. Uncanceled continues on KCMO Talk Radio. Retired Colonel John Cluck from the 139th Airlift Wing is going to join us next to talk about what we've done in Iran.
Uncanceled is presented by FanDuel.
It is absolutely my honor and all of our privilege to have retired commander of the 139th Airlift Wing, U.S. Air Force Colonel John Cluck, joining us now to talk a little bit about the operations going on in Iran. It's been a couple of months since the Colonel and I have spoken. How are you, sir? Everything good in your world today?
I'm doing great, Kevin. Thanks for the telephone call. Appreciate it.
It is great to have you on. Thank you, sir. And I know that you've taken a little time to study exactly what's happened over the last 3 days or so. They're basically positioning this as the largest airstrike in the history of mankind. I guess it's been a couple of thousand targets we've hit already. How can you describe for me how much bigger this is than other things we've done, and how difficult is this to execute?
Well, I think the biggest thing is you're coordinating with the total joint force. So the Navy launched all the Tomahawks right off the start to soften their air defenses. Then we sent the fighters and the bombers in after that. So you've got a lot of moving parts there, all have to work in coordination with each other. As far as being the largest air assault, we had a pretty big run there at the beginning of Desert Storm as well, but it's just a different force now with, bombers and things of that nature. So, it's very difficult, but it shows how coordinated we are and how determined we are to get the job done.
It sounds like we have control of the airspace now, and things are better for pilots and everything that we're doing there. How much safer is it now for these pilots executing these missions than it would have been, for example, 30 years ago?
Well, I think the biggest thing is the equipment is just so much. It's advanced as normal electronics have. They have ways of communicating between the airborne command and control platforms down to the fighters, to the bombers, and all the different apparatuses can speak to each other through electronic media that we don't even see it happen, and it gives them just a higher range of intelligence what they have inside the aircraft to counter the threats.
What do the Air Force pilots know when they go up? Are they just told, here's the mission, go and execute this? Or, we've known about this threat in Iran for a long time, so I'm guessing there's been a lot of rehearsal. This plan was well thought out over months, if not years, in various iterations. What do the actual men and women that execute these missions know when they take off and go?
Well, they'll get a briefing before they go about any threats that they see en route, and then they'll do what we would call just a route study and a mission planning cell that would give them all their available platforms for support throughout the mission. They will know their target, as they're going in, and then they'll also know the escape routes and things of that nature. So they'll have it very well planned before they go. Plus, they'll also have the ability to get real-time intel data downloaded to their aircraft to change any, part of the mission they need to do.
Last summer, the B-2s from right here in Missouri went and took out the nuclear location. We saw that. It was just a spectacular mission that the Midnight Hammer last summer. They're involved in this again. Is it your understanding, does this just kind of rotate? We know they go on 37-hour missions. They drop their payloads. They come back. Does that mean when they're coming back, some more B-2s take off, or do they all go at once? Typically, how do we use the B-2s in a situation like this?
Well, from what I've been seeing online is that we used the B-2s one night, and then we rolled in with the B-1s after that. So I assume just to do the different target sets that they'll have, they might need different platforms and different needs. Clearly, you send the B-2s early because of their stealth capacity and characteristics. The B-1 doesn't have that as well. So I've even saw yesterday that they're talking about maybe doing some B-52 bombing now. We used the B-52 a lot during the run into Afghanistan right off the start, and if we can bring that platform back and get it in there as well. I'm sure that the B-2s are sort of, when some get back, I'm sure they're also preparing and to send the next wave out. But I know that they're bringing all three platforms into the fight.
Every answer to this question may be subjective, but is flying the stealth, the B-2 stealth, the best pilot job in the Air Force? It depends on the person, right? So one person would think yes, absolutely. Another one would want to fly the F-35. Another would want to fly the F-22 and different platforms that we have out there. The B-2 missions are long, very, very long. And, it takes a certain type of person that can stay that focused for that long of a period of time. 37 hours, day and a half, it's tough. We're talking with retired commander of the 139th Airlift Wing in St. Joe, U.S. Air Force Colonel John Cluck. What about you? What if you had your preference today? If you were 28 years old again and could fly any one of these missions, what would you choose?
Well, when you're young, you think everybody wants to go fast with their hair on fire, so it'd be hard to turn down a 35 or an F-22. But, as I got older, I realized that nice slow C-130 was pretty accommodating as well.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to turn either one of them down. They're all the absolute best in the world, and I'm sure they all have their own reasons for loving them.
I saw a video yesterday of one of our pilots that ejected from one of our fighter jets over Kuwait that they friendly fire. It was an accident on their part. Apparently they hit these three jets. They fell out of the sky. All our pilots are safe. And the man has an iPhone and he's walking through this deserty area and the pilot's standing there and is like, hey, I'm friendly. He's like, hey, it's all good. And this dude, I guess Kuwaiti, just starts thanking the pilot for being there and for immediately. Right. Is that what our forces are feeling and hearing right now from the ones that are located overseas and are on these bases? Is that what they're hearing from locals in all these countries is thank you, thank you, thank you?
That's the majority of it. It's not much different than here. All the Iranian Americans, or most of them, are out celebrating in the streets. It's the same thing there. They don't have a ton of interaction. They take off from a base, they come back to a base. Clearly, this was a unique circumstance, but we have locals that work inside the bases, inside the wire of all the bases, and they all are very appreciative. They have been living through this regime for years and years, and they know what the threat is. So they understand it and appreciate the sacrifices our folks are making.
So when these planes were hit with friendly fire, they've not really said exactly what happened there. I'm on X and stuff a lot, and people are making fun of the accident that, because nobody died. Okay, we lost planes. We can build new planes. But it's like, okay, yeah, we got partners over there that don't know what they're doing. Is that necessarily the case? Is this human error? Could it be a defense system that is set up that misread what these planes were? How does something like that happen?
It probably is human error. You can understand they're all very heightened sense right now. So they should have been projecting some things from the aircraft that the people on the ground should have known that was actually friendly aircraft. But you can understand that they're worried about the threat of the Iranians coming after them too. So I'm sure it's human error. They were shot down by Patriots from the Patriot missile batteries, which we have those all around. These were Kuwaiti ones, clearly. But, I'm sure that somebody probably just got a little bit anxious and was worried and got ahead of himself.
Okay, and that's where adrenaline and calm and nerves and steel and all those things come in as a factor. As an Air Force pilot or any of our military pilots that we have around the globe that are serving here, or if you're on one of the battleships, out in the Gulf or whatever it may be, how does the military train people for situations that are clearly not training? Okay, I've talked to enough people in sports my whole life that, like, you line up in the playoffs, you've never been trained for that. All right, you're now in a moment that's bigger than it's been. How do we prepare our personnel for moments like this so there is no panic and they can control the emotion and the adrenaline?
Mostly just through practice, clearly, just like anything else. We also try to do exercises that advance the level of threat we try to expose our members to, different inspections and exercise type of things to try to simulate the situation they could be in. For instance, we knock out some of their radio communications. We take away some of their navigational skills. We do these sort of things to sort of keep them on a little more heightened edge the whole time throughout the training apparatus. And honestly, that's why if you're out by Whiteman, or you're up north by St. Joe, or even over in Topeka, and you see the planes take off and you think, well, why are they flying all the time? That's exactly why. They have to be ready for the day we need them. It can't be it needs to be second nature to them, just immediately happen. Okay,
so they say something bigger is coming. Any idea what that is? I mean, Rubio has said it. Trump has said it. We've got something planned here. They want to be out within a month. We'll see if that can happen. But he also said they thought it would take a month to get the first 40 people out. They got 49 on one strike in one building. The Israelis hit another building today where they were congregating to vote and try to find a new Ayatollah. The new Supremes were in their meeting, and they're gone. So the JV team is gone. As I joked at the start of the show today, they're gone. What bigger could possibly be coming? Aren't we hitting them really hard?
We're hitting them pretty hard. I know we got a lot of stuff to play with, but sure seems like they pulled them all out. I don't know. I've been fascinated to learn how they've been using these one-way attack drones, and I think they're called Lucas drones or something like that. But how they're using them to get the Iranians to expend their arms on something that really doesn't matter to us. And so unless it's some sort of trickery like that, I don't know. And I'm sure that I hope we don't have to find out. I hope this all gets wrapped up quickly and we can get our folks back into the fence and everybody be safe.
Well, I heard Secretary of War Pete Hegseth say yesterday, he talked about the Air Force, the ships, the Navy, all the coordination, CENTCOM, everybody doing their job terrifically, and he rattled off some of the things that we've used, the missiles that we've used, the planes that we've used. And then he said, and other classified forces. And I was like, okay, This thing that happened in Venezuela, where we have guards around Maduro that says they dropped to their knees, they fell to the ground, their noses bled, and they couldn't breathe because of something they felt, but they don't know what it was and couldn't describe it. How much stuff do we have that we don't know about, that you and I don't know about, and do you think some of that's being used here?
Well, I certainly think they have it ready to be used. And if that's what it needs to, if that's how we need to execute the mission and be successful, I think that they won't be afraid of pulling that trigger. Now, I think that it'd be graduated response. You don't show the full playbook until you have to show the full playbook. And I think, I'm sure we have many of those things. I'm not privy to a lot of it. So I'm not as educated as I should be on that, but they've, I think it's done a lot for the rest of the world to say, maybe we need to leave them alone for a while.
You are retired. It's okay to not be up on all this stuff. Colonel John Cluck is our guest today, United States Air Force retired. Were you shocked by what you heard about how we pulled that off in Venezuela? Because it sounds like leaders around the world were like, whoa, we don't know what that was or how they did it, but it was amazing. Were you shocked by it?
A little bit, and it shows that, when you have absolute resolve, you can get a lot of stuff done, and swift and very rapid response. And once again, that was another tremendous coordination through multiple joint force apparatuses, Air Force, Army, and Air Force and Navy, mainly the two big ones, but special operators and all those type of things. Takes a lot to coordinate all that. Takes a lot of planning. Takes a lot of interaction between the agencies and the services. And I think it's incredibly exciting that we have gotten to a point now where we know we can do it. And I think the Venezuela thing was a little bit of a run-up to maybe a little bit of a practice for this, what we're dealing with now.
Has Donald Trump changed the engagement of conflict? Because, I'm not an historian, I don't know, but it seems to me like most of the conflicts through time has been leaders of countries or armies or whatever sitting in ivory towers and people on the front line. We're seeing this right now in Ukraine and Russia. I said, look, if Putin really wanted to end this thing, why doesn't he just take Zelensky out? I mean, I don't understand. Zelensky's just walking around, living his life. They know where they are every day. They're driving their Bentleys to work, and all this stuff's going on. Trump's like, we're going to extract Maduro. We're going to kill the Ayatollah the first day. We're not doing this. We're not doing this war. I'm going to take you out. You've tried to kill me, and now I'm going to kill you. Is he changing the art of engagement here?
Sure seems like it, and I think there will be a lot of historians that study the apparatus of way he's executed everything. And, he is not, there's no second guessing. When he makes his mind up and goes, he goes. And there's a lot of comfort in that from a service member standpoint, knowing that you have the full support of your leadership above you to execute the mission. Most of these service members just want to do their mission. They know they're trained to do something. They're 100% professionals, and they want to go out and practice the skill that they've worked so hard to earn. And I'm sure that it's very comforting for them to know that the leadership above them completely has their back and supports them in every way.
Awesome. Before I let you go, I know you're retired now as the commander of the 139th Airlift Wing. How are things going there? And I know it is still so near and dear to your heart about finding young people to get involved and serve their country. You're doing great things there, I know. How close do you stay in touch with them, and how's it going there right now?
Well, actually with this call I used last night to re-engage a little bit. Things are going well. They're still in a recruiting lull right now. It could always use some more people, but they're trained and ready to go if they're called. They haven't been called yet. I know that clearly the Air National Guard unit at Whiteman has been, the Air National Guard unit at Topeka has been. So both of those units are going out and executing their real world tasking. The Guard unit at the 139th in St. Joe's ready to go if called upon. It's a little hard for me because, I was part of it for so long. It's a little bit, makes me a little homesick and want to get, call me back in, Coach. I got a little bit of fight left in me type of a deal. But we're getting through that, and certainly love and support the members of the 139th. They're tremendous professionals. Just
grab a couple pizzas someday and swing on by for lunch. I'm sure they'll welcome you.
I think I'm going to. That's a great idea.
I know it. Colonel, thank you so much for your service. God bless you, and I can't thank you enough for your time today. You're the best, buddy.
Well, I appreciate the call, Kevin. If you don't mind me putting in one plug, I would ask that everybody remember the wives and the families of the members that are deployed out doing this work. The easy part is for them to do their job, and the wives and families got to take care of everything home. That's very important. So let's don't forget them as well.
Well said. Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
Thanks, Kevin. Take care.
He is retired Air Force Colonel John Cluck, 139th Airlift Wing retired commander, and I've known him for many years, and he loves America, and he has been a great pilot, and we congratulate him on an awesome career with the United States Air Force, and we thank him very much for all the great detail and commentary today right here on Uncanceled. Okay, Mark, I got 3 topics for you here today. I'm going to let you choose which one you like first. We're going to go with B's here today. Would you like basketball, bowls, or bailing out?
Basketball. Three's day, baby. Let's go.
It is, right? Today's the day, right, on FanDuel?
Yep.
The big promotion's going on at FanDuel if you're going to check it out. It's Trey Day, and a player named Trey Young plays for the Washington Wizards. He was traded there in January. He has never played in a game yet for them because of injury. How did he make it into the box score last night?
Ooh, did he get a technical from the bench?
Yes!
Yeah!
That's exactly what he got.
It's the only thing I can think of.
He got out and argued during a timeout and got a technical.
Way to go, Trey.
He still hasn't played for the Wizards, but he made the box score. Okay, bailing out or bowls?
Bowls.
Bowls. Frank and Sarah Bowl of Fox 4 fame and sports radio fame. Frank Bowl, a legend, his wife Sarah, who I know very well. Frank was my mentor. He's been on here many times with Pete in the past. Are the subjects of a national T-Mobile commercial for people over the age of 55 and a new rate plan that they have. Apparently, Sarah knows people at T-Mobile in Overland Park. The creative team is there. They were auditioning and looking for couples to be like a regular couple who has T-Mobile. It's in their home. They're sitting there watching TV. They're on their couch. Frank says he has received phone calls and texts from people in over a dozen states at this point.
That's pretty sweet.
It's a national ad. I saw it. I'm like, Jessica, I told my wife, I said, I don't think that's local.
That's got to be national, yeah.
It is national, and he's hearing people all over the place, so you're probably going to see that one. And finally, we'll finish with the bailout. A pilot and a passenger created another miracle on the Hudson. You remember Sully, right? The Miracle on the Hudson?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
It happened again last night.
What?
A Cessna 172, this is north on the Hudson River of where it happened with Sully, this is well north of New York City, up by West Point, had problems with his plane. And there's ice all over the river, the Hudson River. And he calls Mayday, and he goes down, and he hits some ice and lands on the ice, and it breaks the ice, and they start to sink. They bail out their door and swim to shore. Pilot and a passenger.
That's crazy. Got to have hypothermia, though.
Exactly. They rushed him to the hospital. They're going to be okay, I think. Do you think you'd pass out if you were in that water trying to swim?
Probably.
Adrenaline maybe takes over, huh? Yeah. Ooh, icy water of the Hudson River. That's it for Uncanceled. The Vince Show's coming up next.